very clear to them that Jesus' blood in the cup is just like the blood being sacrificed from a lamb.
Jesus is surrounded by people struggling just to feed themselves, so he uses food to share his ideas of a more just society.
Jesus took a loaf of bread, and after blessing it, he broke it and gave it to the disciples.
And that's really indicative of what the kingdom of God is all about, which is to take that which belongs to God, the bread, and to distribute it to all of the people.
Sharing a meal with close companions embodies Jesus' idea of how people should treat one another. But this is a fateful supper, for it's Jesus' last. As he predicts, one of the very men at his table will betray him. 1,000 years of art portrays endless options of what the Last Supper looked like. But historical and archaeological research see it a little differently.
The art of the Last Supper is rather comical when you think about it. The 12 disciples and Jesus all sitting on one side of the table. Well, of course it couldn't have happened that way, and the only reason it's portrayed that way is that's the only way the artist can get all the faces in the picture.
The best-known rendition is by Leonardo da Vinci. He captures the moment so powerfully, most of us imagine the Last Supper this way. Jesus at the center of the table in a grand hall, flanked by 12 well-dressed men. Spread before them a fine cloth, glasses of wine, loaves of bread, plates and knives. Da Vinci was obviously a much better painter than historian. So modern researchers are on the case to uncover the true details of the Last Supper. Outside Jerusalem, archaeologist Peter Richardson explores the remains of first-century dwellings. He thinks they're very close to where Jesus had his Last Supper.
This is a group of first-century houses in Jerusalem. Nowadays, it's outside the walls of the city of Jerusalem, but in the first century, it was actually enclosed within the walls. I'm walking along a rather rudimentary lane that gives access to this house. This is the doorway to the house.
The footprints of these houses are tiny. Poor Jerusalemites built them right next door to one another. With little light inside, the roof, accessed by an outside stairway, was a natural place for residents to work and live.
The roof, of course, was used in antiquity as an extension of the living space for a variety of functions. Women would use it for spinning and weaving. It might be used for large family meals, communal meals of one kind or another.
People gravitated to outdoor spaces in day-to-day life. But during the crowded Passover season, the rooftop was the only available space for pilgrims to celebrate the holiday meal.
People put up various types of structures on rooftops, in streets, anywhere they could, so as to accommodate this massive number of people who had come to celebrate the Passover.
So, contrary to the elaborate scene we imagine, the Last Supper may have been more like a picnic. Biblical historian Lawrence Schiffman and archaeologist Jonathan Reed fine-tune the details of a temporary Passover dining room.
Okay, and palms like this or thatch, what do you think?
I think a lot of people had like rooftop shades on their houses and could very well have had these available all the time.
Okay, and the setup?
Probably they would have the tables in the middle somehow.
And then the cushions sort of spread around?
The cushions have got to be arranged around the sides so that the people could lean more or less towards the tables.
So the scene is set. But exactly who were the diners? The Bible makes no mention of women and children, but many scholars believe that Jesus' family and closest followers attended his last meal, regardless of gender.
It's reasonable to imagine that some of the women followers of Jesus were at the Last Supper. The texts do not say only the 12 were there.
But I certainly would include among them Mary Magdalene and Mary, the mother of Jesus. We know that because they're very prominent at the crucifixion and at the tomb. There's no way, in my mind, that Jesus would have excluded them from the Last Supper.
But maybe Jesus should have excluded one of his disciples, Judas Iscariot. 3 Gospels imply that Jesus knew Judas was going to betray him.
It is one of the 12, one who is dipping bread into the bowl with me.
The Gospel of John gives the story an extraordinary twist. Jesus hands a piece of bread to the one who will betray him. He actually chooses Judas.
Do quickly what you are going to do.
But it's the Gospel of Judas that really turns the story on its head. Unearthed from the sands of Egypt in 1978, sold twice and stolen once, it finally revealed some shocking secrets. It says that Jesus actually orchestrated his own end and appointed Judas to hand him over. Judas had no choice but to treat his former master as if he were now his slave. That night, Jesus is in the Garden of Gethsemane, outside Jerusalem, praying, sweating and fearing for his life. Judas leads the armed men directly to him.
Then Jesus, knowing all that was to happen to him, came forward and asked them, "Whom are you looking for?"
Jesus said, we're really doing this all voluntarily. I'm really controlling the action here. I'm supposed to go down this route leading eventually to crucifixion.
Judas then walks up to Jesus and kisses him.
The one I will kiss is the man. Arrest him.
The disciple Peter scuffles with the guards, cutting off a man's ear with his sword. But Jesus is resigned to his fate, and from that night, even if he was forced to betray him, the name Judas becomes synonymous with treachery and deceit. Jesus is led out of the garden, and all the Gospels say that he then comes face to face with Caiaphas, the religious leader at the temple. At that meeting, Jesus claims he is the Son of God.
He has blasphemed. He deserves death. You have heard his blasphemy. Blasphemy, because you are making yourself God.
Caiaphas hands Jesus over to the Roman governor, Pontius Pilate, who condemns him to the cross. But scholars doubt the historical accuracy of this account. They find it unlikely that Jewish leaders want to execute Jesus for blasphemy.
I'm not at all sure when I read through Jewish literature at the time and Jewish laws at the time that claiming to be the Messiah would be considered blasphemy.
The Roman Empire conquered Judea as early as 63 BC. By 30 AD, Rome is calling the shots, not temple leaders. Under Roman rule, crucifixion of anyone perceived as a political threat is a common method of execution. And Jesus is no exception.
What gets him into trouble with Rome is that he's talking about the kingdom of God. And by talking about the kingdom of God, he's really denying the fact that Roman rule is by divine right, and that the Caesars who rule Rome are gods.